Shocking new revelations connecting Vault-Tec with Mr. House. Did House fill Vault 21 with concrete to hide a secret Vault-Tec research lair? This and more on today's episode of Lindsay's Fallout, brought to you by Lindsay. Disclaimer, this video is going to be full of spoilers, and I cross-reference Fallout with real-life potentially triggering shit. If you comment, do try to remember that I am an actual real-life breathing, thinking, feeling human being, and in the event that I piss you off, my deepest condolences that you saw something on the internet that you didn't like today. I wish you a swift recovery. And I cuss a lot, so fucking cope. I do not have time to make this video today, but we are talking about the Fallout Season 2 premiere, and I could not help myself. They hit us with the man who knew. They hit us with Mr. House stuff the very first second. Jesus Christ, Amazon. Lube a girl up first. We start off with these robot protesters. You may be familiar with the automation riots, especially if you play Fallout 76. Say, who took this swell picture on the independent Fallout wiki page? That's right, me, baby. Me. Nearly 1,000 contributions in less than a month. No, I don't have a girlfriend. Sup, ladies. And then we see Mr. House on a tiny TV screen as portrayed in Season 1. And we all kind of shook our heads and went, wait, what? Because we watched the Season 2 trailer. We saw a new Mr. House. We thought there was a recasting. What's happening? They fucked with us. That's what's happening. It would appear that that was never Mr. House. It was a body double, a proxy, a hoodwink. It was a Padme Amidala situation. This dude goes to the meetings and goes to the interviews and poses for the billboards. So House can do what House does best. Whatever the fuck he wants. This is a very House thing to do. If you think about it, he had a similar arrangement with Benny. In my Benny and House documentary, yes, I'm calling it a documentary, it is not just a lore video. I talk about how while House was isolated in his house tube, Benny was his man in the field. And I suggested that maybe Benny wouldn't have turned on him if House had had a little bit more respect for that. This episode appears to crack open some themes regarding the benefits of fame versus anonymity. House is getting all the benefits of fame, power, impact, access, respect, money, but he sure is dodging all the drawbacks. Exposure, vulnerability, consequences, fallout. And I love that the quote-unquote recast had an explanation. I am a pretty shameless lore break apologist. If you've seen my Johnny Silverhand video, you know what I'm talking about. I will turn reality inside out to make broken continuity make sense, which is probably why I often end up in abusive relationships. But anyway, the point is I'm stoked that I didn't just have to ignore and look the other way when Mr. House suddenly had a different face. I've seen some people online confused, like, is this Anthony House? Of course it's not Anthony House. This guy said that he was Mr. House's biggest fan. I assure you that Anthony House is not Mr. House's biggest fan. If you don't know what I'm talking about, here's the scoop. So Robert House, our house in the middle of our street, is actually an orphan. His parents passed away, but he's got a half-brother that would be Anthony House. Their father was a big business tycoon type guy, and Anthony House screwed Robert House out of his fair share of the inheritance and took control of their father's company. Now, what company would that be? You tell us, Fallout TV show, you with your deep cuts. H&H Tools. Oh yeah, they went there. House says to the construction worker, so you must use the H&H nail gun, and every House nerd watching just wiggled with joy in their chairs. So House full-on invites this dude to clock him in the face. Doesn't surprise me at all that he's a little bit of a sensation junkie. Dude is neurodivergent as fuck. But he also respects sensations as data. My dude is doing field work right now, which he would not be able to do were he not in Padme mode. What is he researching? How to control people. Literally his favorite subject. Can I get this dude to do whatever I want for $31 million? No? Well, I guess that means violence then. Those are the only two options. This isn't kindergarten, this is capitalist Sparta. Well, there is one other option. Technology. House will do anything to avoid a conversation. So he slaps a mind control device on the back of the dude's neck, manages to get him to beat the hell out of his buddy, but then the dude starts resisting, and he resists so hard that his head explodes. Guess it's back to the drawing board for Mr. House. When the device stopped working, House looked a little scared, he looked a little vulnerable, and it was pretty weird to see him like that. House is supposed to be like Bugs Bunny. No matter what shit show he's in, we kind of expect to see that he had it under control the whole time. But the freedom to be vulnerable, to make mistakes, to experiment and have those experiments fail, that's one of the benefits of having that proxy. Experimenting on people is dangerous. Who knew? We're gonna talk more about this device at the end of the video, but for now, the most important point here, this is a guy who feels totally entitled to do whatever he wants to people in the name of progress, and he thinks that they should thank him for it. The dialogue is exquisite. While that guy is beating up his friend, he's like, "Oh, you fellows do use the H&H nail gun. You should feel good about it. You paid for all of this. You should feel good about it. You paid for all of this." That is so House. I don't think he would condone this kind of behavior on the strip, but we gotta keep in mind that this isn't his world yet. To him, this is the pre-war savage wasteland that he's apparently willing to destroy to build his strip capitalist utopia. In House's world, civil discourse is not a thing. The line between civility and barbarism is cash. And he's gonna get humanity on board, whether they like it or not, for their own good. The world may end, but progress marches on. We catch up with Lucy and the Ghoul at the iconic New Vegas location of Novac. Sure, Dinky the T-Rex has turned the complete polar opposite direction, but they captured the spirit. Unfortunately, not even my lore-break apologist brain can possibly fathom who would have the capacity or the desire to rotate that dinosaur. If anyone can tell me how the Great Khans pulled that off and installed an empty swimming pool while they were at it, I'm all ears. But I'm not complaining. I love the scene. I love that Lucy fails a speech check, and these writers are really talented at covering a lot of subtext in a really short period of time. It's really efficient. We get a vibe that Lucy and the Ghoul have been traveling together for a long time and what kind of relationship that they've had over their journey. And the use of Big Iron, way to wank off the New Vegas fans. That is not one of my favorite Fallout songs, but a lot of New Vegas people get pretty emotional about it. And it's always nice to see them work in those Fallout cinematic shots. They sort of cheated what the entrance to Novac looks like, but they definitely got the vibe down. My first time watching this, I was so distracted analyzing what Novac looked like that I didn't notice that the Ghoul was healing his wounds using the radiation from a fusion core. As a Ghoul player in 76, I appreciate the representation. Ghoul power. #1 Ghoul boss right here. When we cut back to pre-war times, Cooper has just found out that his wife is creepy, so he scoops up the kidlet and whisks her away to an homage to Sanctuary Hills from Fallout 4. This scene suggests the opening quest to Fallout 4 with such intensity. I think me and my friend watching this were just totally disoriented. Like, wait, aren't they in Los Angeles? And we already saw where he was when the bombs dropped. What's happening? I'm glad Cooper was like, this is a test, because I think I needed that just as much as everybody in the scene. The Vault-Tec salesman, the colors, the panic, the vertibird. Straight up Fallout 4. Check it out. A while back I was making a machinima of the opening of Fallout 4. Never finished it because it's one of those projects I realized I really couldn't do it by myself. If anybody wants to help me do it, let me know, because I still think it was a really cool idea. That is, of course, if the situation with Fallout 4 ever stabilizes. When we go back to the future, where Reg is having some sort of infantile crisis, as underscored by his attachment to his lollipop. Without batting an eye, Betty says that Norm has been sent for a leadership exchange program to Vault 31. If you watched my Norm video, you know that I have a theory that Norm didn't just figure out that Vault 31 had secrets. I suggested that he was led there. This doesn't confirm my theory, but it kind of supports it. There's a manipulation tactic called a reverse discard. The idea is if it's not socially advantageous for you to break up with somebody or fire somebody or kick somebody out, you basically just torment them into removing themselves. So if you're a curious person who takes no shit, as we all know Norm is, all you have to do is apply a wee bit of shit and dangle some intrigue, and folks like Norm will walk right off a cliff. Later, Bud explicitly says that they had a contingency in place for if somebody went missing in the vault. Norm clearly did not fuck their shit up by stumbling in there, and Betty seems cool as a cucumber about slinging this premeditated bullshit. And then we go to Davey, and Davey's interesting. I think most of us probably feel for Stephanie here. I think we've all had that situation where somebody was complaining, and since there was obviously nothing we could do about what they were complaining about, it's just like, just want to hear yourself complain, dude? Pro tip, whenever somebody's doing this, what they want is to feel like you care about what they're experiencing. More often than not, nobody else in their life does. What's interesting is that in season 1, Davey appeared to be a vampire's familiar. He was a 31 shill. He was one of the few that was stoked about moving to 32. Based on that, I would expect a conversation between him and Stephanie alone would have a different vibe than this. Like, has this guy absorbed the propaganda to such an extreme that I thought he was a spy? I suppose we'll see. And watching the way that Stephanie treats Chet is so hard for me to watch because, frankly, I can't stand either of these types of people. Stephanie is awful to him, but she's a vampire. She cannot come in unless invited. And not only did he invite her, but he actively turned the brave route down. down. And I'm sure I have some healing to do, and I'm not a perfect person, but there's a part of me that looks at guys like that and goes, you made your fucking choice. Making autonomous decisions, that was too much for you, so this bitch is gonna make decisions for you. Have fun. If you have a choice between doing something that's hard and doing something that's miserable, choose the hard thing. Both of them suck. And more often than not, when you choose the miserable thing, you're making horrible people more powerful, and that is dumb. But it looks like he's starting to get good and pissed off, so I'm rooting for him. Come on, Chet, get your shit together. And then we return to Norm, my man. He is surviving but not thriving, and is that really that different from his previous situation? I'm not sure. The villain dialogue that we get from Bud in this scene is chef's kiss. Norm says, I'm not gonna be your prisoner, but like I kinda just pointed out, and as Bud says, you're already my prisoner. He says all Norm has to do is stick it out in the cryopod until there's no one left on the surface to disagree with them. And then he says the most beautifully dark, spine-chilling line. Maybe you'll be more reasonable once you're a little hungrier. Yeah, this is some real shit. Remember earlier when I told you what a reverse discard was? The creepiest people don't make you do anything. They control the surrounding conditions so that the most rational course of action you can do is what they want you to do. Bud just lays it on thick. All the reasons that Norm should come to the conclusion that he has no options. He says, you're living in my world. These 3 vaults are the products of decades of strategizing, the combined efforts of hundreds of the brightest pre-war minds with all the resources of a functioning civilization. You're just some malcontent who wandered down the wrong corridor. What hope do you have against the greatest achievement in the history of vertical integration? Y'all, this is not that different from our real world. I can prove it. How many of you are doing your dream job? How many of you are spending your day-to-day life doing exactly what you wish you were doing with your day-to-day life? I would bet very few of you. Now I want you to think about all the reasons you're not doing that thing. It's probably, for some reason or another, not realistic, right? You accept your limitations because they're par for the course in your understanding of what is the quote-unquote real world. But is it the real world, or is it Bud's world? A world orchestrated by the brightest minds with all the resources of a functioning civilization. What hope do you have against the greatest achievement in the history of vertical integration? Probably not much. So you look at your shitty hourly job the way that Norm is looking at this cryopod. Fucking insidious shit. Meanwhile, back in the wasteland, Lucy and the Ghoul walk by a guy that Hank apparently literally stepped on. Fallout strikes again with hilariously unsubtle metaphors. When I saw the food vendor was selling flea soup, I was like, why did they make up a new gross food? Fallout has plenty of gross foods to pull from. And then I saw where they were going with it, and I was like, oh, they're doing a bit, I gotcha. The vendor tells them that Hank took her son, but the punchline is she only gives a shit because he owed her money. The wasteland is so terrible, yuck, yuck, yuck. But once again, is this really that different from the real world? How many of you watching this now have watched families get torn apart over money? A metric fuck ton, I am sure. But it ends off on the most Fallout thing ever when she yells after them, you find any money on the body, it's mine! This is the wasteland, it doesn't matter who's dead, you loot that body. And after that, Lucy lays down some dialogue that is a perfect setup for a classic Lindsay progressive tangent. Lucy says that her goal when she finds her dad is to bring him to justice. Now, if I were the Ghoul, I would have been like, what justice where? But he goes with, you think he deserves that? And interestingly, despite the fact that we are literally talking about the guy who raised her, she's still hung up on how she was raised. She says she was raised to believe that justice is what everyone deserves, so people know that how they conduct themselves matters. And don't give up hope. And because she's adorable, she also suggests that there's still a little bit of hope inside the Ghoul in there somewhere too. Like the whole, looking for his family bit. But the irony isn't lost on the Ghoul that she is standing there defending the upbringing provided by a guy who just stepped on a guy and previously blew up a town. So he's like, well, I hate to break it to you, darling, but the way you was raised wasn't real. And I could not love how she replies more. She says, I know that. Very flatly, very confidently. I know that. But look at your alternative. Guess I'm just trying to lead by example. So let me overthink that for you, in case you can't get around to it. In my Maximus Brotherhood of Steel masculinity video, I talk about the way Maximus responds when being the squire to Knight Titus did not go as he imagined, and how he could have processed that a couple different ways. He could have gone, the Brotherhood of Steel made this dipshit a knight? The Brotherhood of Steel is stupid. He could have lost his faith in the organization, or he could go, this dude is letting down the Brotherhood of Steel. This dipshit becoming a knight doesn't show that the Brotherhood of Steel is shitty at choosing knights, or that Brotherhood of Steel knights values aren't all they're cracked up to be. It's this guy that's the problem. It all depends on how deeply the values are woven into the fabric of who we are. From Lucy's perspective, American Vault-Tec values aren't the problem. Her father is the problem because, as she's come to understand them, he is betraying those American Vault-Tec values. Lucy hasn't quite yet grasped that the reason the Vault culture had so much civility is because they had plenty of resources, and the reason that they had plenty of resources is because those resources were secured by violence. She's never had to make ass jerky, but ass jerky don't make itself. But no matter how much ass jerky she makes, she's gonna stick to her non-lethal guns. Why? As she said, look at your alternative. The world clearly, desperately needs civility, and the only way it can possibly have that is if people like Lucy hang on as long as they possibly can. The values she was taught aren't bad ones. The methods used to secure her safety to learn those values violated those values. Case in point, when she was convincing Maximus to return the fusion core to Vault 4, she said that if her father found out that she destroyed a community to save him, that it would break his heart. Well, that's exactly what he did to save her. The values weren't the problem, the hypocrisy was. Our heroes continue their journey to the Starlight Drive-In, and every New Vegas fan went, in the Mojave, it wouldn't be the Starlight Drive-In, it would be the Mojave Drive-In. But are you sure that would have made sense? Cause let's look at a map. If our heroes were in Novac, and they're traveling toward the Strip, that points them squarely in a northwest direction. The Mojave Drive-In is significantly southwest, as if they were headed toward the Mojave Outpost, and the California Sunset Drive-In is even further ass-west, between the Mojave Outpost and Prim. So unless my dudes are doing the reverse Fallout New Vegas route, and want to approach the Strip through Quarry Junction for no goddamn reason, it doesn't make sense for them to hit the drive-ins that are actually in the game. So believe it or not, introducing a new drive-in location is the most lore-friendly thing they could have done. I think we all need to accept that there are things that exist in this universe that aren't actually in-game. I mean, where are all the iguanas that they put on all those sticks, am I right? I told y'all I was a lore break apologist. You knew what this was. I guess this is the part where I'm supposed to say like and subscribe, so do that. Yeah. So in pre-war times, Janey is playing Whack-A-Kami, a game we obviously need for melee buffs in Fallout 76, while Cooper is talking to Not-A-Kami, Kate Williams, aka pre-war Lee Muldaver. And we go back to that theme of fame versus anonymity. Kate invites Cooper to utilize his fame to get access to Mr. House and then experience the honor of releasing him from this mortal coil, an honor that many of us have enjoyed many times. I never enjoy it. It makes me cry. I know he's the devil. I love him anyway. It's complicated. That's why I love Fallout. Kate points out that fame is a rare kind of power, that he can sit in rooms where she can't, meet people that she could never. House, being famous, can also sit in whatever rooms that he wants, but he has that proxy, so he doesn't have the same level of vulnerability. For example, married men all over the world have done things they're not quite stoked about for the benefit of their wives. But when Cooper Howard does something that he's not that comfortable with to help out his wife, he becomes the spokesman for the end of the world. His face is on the Vault-Tec billboards. House's face is not on Lucky 38 billboards. Now, I've never been famous, but I have been a content creator for as long as YouTube has been a thing, and let me tell you, the most delicate beats of my life have been exposed to the public, and the average audience member continues to see people on a screen and only see the power part and see none of the vulnerability part. So I appreciate this show highlighting the hits that Cooper is taking that House is dodging. Now, we know that Cooper is not gonna kill House, but the idea that he had an opportunity to and didn't take it has some really interesting implications for Cooper Howard as a character. Remember in season 1 on the movie set? His character was supposed to shoot that outlaw at point blank range, and Cooper had a problem with that. Just like Lucy, he wanted to bring the outlaw to justice. When the film director is explaining to Cooper why he would shoot that guy in the head, he said they wanted to show that even a good man can be pushed too far. So now in real life, while Cooper is face to face with a potential end of the world, has he been pushed too far yet? If Kate/Muldaver gave him an opportunity to take out House, and doing so would have literally prevented the end of the world, and he decided to be the bigger person and not pull that trigger, then of course he's gonna have an eye-roll attitude toward Lucy's do-gooder bullshit. When Lucy said she wanted to set a good example, I wouldn't be surprised if this line of pre-war flashback Muldaver dialogue played in his head. When the world goes down in flames, at least you'll know your hands are clean. Muldaver strikes again, bringing our attention back to those tricky little choices. This is a classic Fallout conundrum. How much harm are you willing to do for a greater good? How big a karma hit are you willing to take? How big a hit are you willing to take to your reputation? Are your do-gooder choices actually contributing to the good of the world? Or are they just bolstering your image of yourself as a quote-unquote good person? There's a reason people say the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Mr. House has good intentions. Trust me, my autistic ass has combed over every line of that man's dialogue, and his commitment to his belief in his own goodness is the root of every horrible thing that he does. Your intent is only relevant in your head. The actions that you take and the impact of those actions is what's affecting everyone else. So if you care more about your intent than your impact, that is inherently selfish and socially negligent. If you care more about your intent than your impact, you're the bad guy. If the world goes down in flames, does it really matter how clean your hands are? Sometimes you gotta get your hands dirty, 'cause ass jerky don't make itself. So Cooper decides to take Janey back home, and we get this really powerful, very seething, tension-y kind of scene that makes it very clear that Cooper and his wife are lying to each other now. They know dark shit, but they are smiling like everything's fine. But honestly, I just want to talk about how much I love this bright yellow kitchen. Let's see it in the item shop. Come on, Bethesda, what's the point of making shit that looks cool like this unless you can make a buck off of it somehow? So we come to find out that the Starlight Drive-In was a front for a vault that was not in the original game. All the more reason it made more sense for them to make up a new drive-in location. Anybody else kind of laugh when she said, never seen a vault like this before, because we sure have. But of course the show was ahead of us when the Ghoul says, par for the course in my experience. Turns out the Ghoul has been spelunking across the nation's vaults looking for his wife and daughter, and he's always terrified when he walks into one of these things because he has no idea. Are they going to be alive? Are they going to be dead? Or are they going to be Gary's? I mean, who knows? And then I kind of cringed when Lucy says, I know about the experiments. I'm like, lady, you know nothing. You don't even know what you don't know. Try fending off a horde of Gary's and then we'll talk. She says, I've been to Vault 4, by far the chillest of the fucked up vaults. Shameless plug, did a video about Vault 4. Even the Ghoul is like, Vault 4 is the best case scenario. And Lucy, in all of her well-meaning, privileged naivete, says, well, to be fair, it was a little weirder than the one I came from. But the Ghoul is killing it with the comeback, so he says, you think so? How many towns did they destroy down in Vault 4? In my Vault 4 video, my main idea is that we all should really examine what we think makes a culture quote-unquote weird. I'm 39 years old, I don't know what American public schools are like right now, but when I was growing up, every day I was told, you're free, you live in the freest country in the world, no one is free on earth but you. Hey, pledge allegiance to that flag. That's weird, guys, that's weird. I was told violence is bad, don't be violent ever, violence is never the answer. But thank God you live in a country that ensures your right to bear arms, and thank God we bombed the shit out of Japan and ended World War II. It's like, guys, I don't think you have a problem with violence. I think you have a problem with violence against you. Now, I'm no military historian. If you tell me that all that shit had to happen, or it would have been way worse, fine. I'm just saying it shouldn't be shocking if other people on the planet see us as the bad guys. In my book, if you have any problem with any stakes up against the end of the world, and the best solution that you can come up with is to kill hundreds of thousands of innocent people, I don't know, maybe you're not done brainstorming yet. That's all I'm saying. Lucy still has this idea that her vault is superior because there was no violence and raider-adjacent behavior, but peace and diplomacy did not secure that environment for her. Violence did. Violence that she didn't have to see. Her dad was making all the ass jerky for her. If the peaceful, civil living inside of the vault was secured and established via civil, peaceful, diplomatic means, she'd have a way stronger position. But alas, Vault-Tec ain't the Federation. We return to Vault 33 where Reg is in crisis and we see products of inbreeding support group, and I feel so trolled. I'm not gonna lie, I thought that they beat a dead horse with the cousin fucking jokes in season 1. I was like, how many times are we gonna come back to this? But I don't know, there's something that becomes funnier when someone or something just won't let a joke go and they just keep escalating it. Like now it's become funny, it's like come full circle. Like me and a buddy of mine, it never fails whenever we hear the word damn, which as you can imagine in Fallout New Vegas fandom, the word comes up a lot. We immediately quote the part in Beavis and Butthead Do America when Beavis says,
is this a goddamn?
Even made a YouTube short of this, and I swear it just gets funnier every time. It would be weird if we didn't say it. And I guess, you know, mathematically, it's kind of odd not to bring up inbreeding concerns when you're talking about people living in a vault. I don't know about y'all, but when I'm playing Fallout Shelter, I'm like, am I being careful not to put people's adult children with them in the breeding quarters? It's easier just to put one stud in there and then just cycle out every adult woman in there, and oh my god. That probably explains a lot about the history of patriarchy, doesn't it? So back in 31, Norm is still grappling with the decision of whether or not to die or go into a cryopod. God. He is enticed by the possibility of eating a toxic centipede, and I am both disappointed and relieved that there are no centipedes in Fallout because those things are the freaking creepiest. There is no living creature that gives me the wiggins quite like a centipede. Snakes, spiders, scorpions, lions and tigers and bears, oh my, I don't care, but get that fucking centipede away from me. But since they're horrifying, maybe they'd make a great Fallout monster, I don't know. But we have way more fun things to discuss right now because my man Norm is about to embrace chaos. So Norm confronts that he only has two rational choices, but if both of those choices are unacceptable, it's time for irrational ones. Remember how I said if the only solution you got is blowing up hundreds of thousands of people, it's time to keep brainstorming? Let's face it, the reason why humanity keeps blowing itself and each other up is because we haven't come up with a better way to solve our problems yet. And we really shouldn't give up on trying because, say it with me kids, war never changes. Rationality is fantastic, but it has its flaws. Logic is a puzzle that requires existing pieces. And since civilization as we know it was built on violent and non-violent competition, and history is written by the winners, and the winners are generally ruthless conquerors, the ideas implanted in our heads, in other words, the pieces that our logical, rational brains have to work with, were implanted by violent conquerors for their benefit, not ours. Sorry if you didn't know. The violent conquerors want us to not hurt each other. We're supposed to non-violently compete to fuel their engine, and be totally fine with them hurting everybody else. Whack-a-commie. Strap in, y'all, because it's about to get really woke, but what I'm saying to you is, the Master's tools will never dismantle the Master's house. It doesn't matter how rational or logical you are, if all you're doing is remixing and rearranging the ideas that the Master gave you. We're all boxed in by forces that are more powerful than us. It's our responsibility to explore what pockets of freedom we have in that box, to find our own pathway to think outside of the box. Because we obviously can't expect the box to cooperate. The box is incentivized to keep us in the box. Fallout has once again created a hilariously on-the-nose metaphor with Norm's current predicament. He is in a box, presented with limited options, provided by somebody strongly incentivized to keep him in that box. He only has access to resources and solutions that were given to him by the box. His only hope is the introduction of something new, something he's never seen before. This is why logic and rationality fail in this context, because you can only plan and strategize with things you already know, already have. And if what you already have ain't gonna do the job, there's no way out other than to embrace the unknown, the unpredictable, chaos. Once you get the new shit, the new ideas, new understanding of the world, get rational and strategize all you want, but you gotta cross that threshold first. I've always thought just coming out of the vault in general was a great metaphor for this. Now, Norm obviously can't climb out of the vault physically, but he can think outside of the box. Lucy may have been the first to leave the vault physically, but Norm was the first to leave it spiritually and psychologically. Norm isn't special because he's so clever and so observant and so perceptive. He's special because he's brave. And he's brave because he confronted his cowardice. A world that needs change is a world that needs something new, and a world that needs something new needs bravery more than it needs intelligence. The world needs people with the guts to choose the unknown, to choose mystery over the devil you know, or all we will ever know is devils. So Norm rejects the hand he was dealt. He says, you're right, I only have two rational choices, but plenty of irrational ones. Plans are hard. Chaos, though, chaos is easy. When it comes to the choice between the known and the unknown, the idea there's nothing to fear but fear itself has never been more appropriate. The only thing that makes chaos hard is the fear. As a human being on the planet, you are exposed to chaos that you didn't choose 24/7. That super safe, super controlled vault, yeah, raiders still got in, didn't they? So if you're up against a wall, if you're up against miserable or hard, why not choose chaos for yourself? If you expect perfect control, perfect predictability from your life, you know what that makes you? Mr. House. Psst. He's not an aspirational character. Believe it or not, I am trying to make this video as short as possible. The Ghoul and Lucy are in Vault 24, which really says something about the level of nerd we're dealing with on this production, because 24 was a cut vault from Fallout New Vegas. All that remains is the Vault 24 jumpsuit that can be summoned via console commands. So they managed to make up a vault and honor existing known material at the same time, which is pretty cool if you ask me. So I guess we can pretend that Vault 24 and the Starlight Drive-In exist in some parallel interdimensional void that the courier did not have access to for some reason. A void where Dinky the dinosaur is turned completely around. You know, Mandela effect. In the vault, Lucy sees that Vault-Tec was brainwashing citizens to be communists, and sees that her dad used one of House's little mind-controlled doohickeys to puppet some scavenger raid or something, I don't know, into passing a message to her before his brain freaking explodes. Clearly, the organization that raised her and taught her all these do-gooder values is perfectly fine with taking people's autonomy away. I mean, I don't see how she could see that and not stop and think, maybe I was programmed too. Remember, Norm was able to be brave because he confronted his own cowardice, right? By the same token, token, one cannot deprogram themselves until they confront that they have been programmed. And I promise, every single one of us has been programmed. And the ghoul takes a hit of the ghoul serum. Is the fix from Fallout 76 the ghoul serum, or is it supposed to be? I'm asking for a friend. I'm the friend. Your ghoul friend. Ha ha ha. I'll never get over making jokes. Jesus Christ, why am I so long-winded? Finally, we are at Hank. He is entering a mysterious underground Vault-Tec facility. That threshold lobby area that he walks through is freaking stunning. Other than this pretentious video essay philosophy shit, my biggest Fallout autistic special interest is locations, level design. If you look at my page on the wiki, you can see my Fallout 76 location photography. I think I'm kind of spamming them and they're being nice, to be honest. I think I post maybe too many pictures, but the point is if I'd seen this space in-game, I would have been like, I am photographing the shit out of that. But after that, it quickly becomes Lindsay's hell on earth. All gray, no color, underground, no sunlight, 460,000 unread messages, and coffee with no creamer? I'd rather be in Vault 31 with Bud. I'm getting in the cryopod, fuck that. And I'm watching this with a buddy of mine. We're connected over Discord chat. Hasn't said a peep the whole episode. Finally manages one sentence. I miss working in an office. I'm like, seriously? Seriously, this whole episode, that's the first thing you felt the need to say. Nothing about the debut of Mr. House, Norm embracing chaos, Dinky the dinosaur in reverse, just you miss working in an office, okay. Okay, clearly I've given up on being brief, but luckily we're on the last chapter of this thing. Let's talk about Hank and Mr. House. When Hank goes into global comms, me and my friend were both convinced he was going to be hitting up the Enclave. I didn't even realize the degree to which I'd been making Enclave-y assumptions until this episode fucked with them, such as season finale, creepy Vault-Tec meeting, creepy guy in the shadows in the window that Barbara's looking up at. Totally assumed that was Enclave. In fact, I wasn't even curious about who it was because I thought who else could it be but Enclave. But whoa, could that have been Mr. House? I'm looking at the picture and it's not conclusive, but it strikes me as not only possible but likely, which would make the whole House proxy thing the most insidious red herring, you bastards. No one will think it's House if House is in the room, you jerks. So when Hank says in the radio, nobody in Vault-Tec knows I'm here, that's the first hint to the audience that obviously he's not talking to Vault-Tec from this Vault-Tec mega complex. So my brain went, Enclave, I'm going back to sleep, until he says he has no doubt that this person is alive because, quote unquote, you spent so much time calculating how to survive all possible contingencies. That sounds like the man who knew to me. And then he says he's in Vegas, your old stomping grounds, and then it's just obvious who he's talking to. And then behold, what's he working on in this facility? Houses, apparently called brain computer interface. Clearly didn't get far enough in development to have a properly branded name. Can we call them mind blowers? Robbie's mind blowers. My autism is so relieved that they explained that this product wasn't finished being developed. Because if Mr. House had had this technology, Fallout New Vegas would not have existed. Victor would have slapped one of those things on the courier before he even woke up in Doc Mitchell's house. Scratch that, Benny would have been under control and wouldn't have shot the courier to begin with. So it's very clear why House would be incentivized to create such a moral atrocity. Now here is where I hope this is going. I want to call this a hope instead of a prediction, because you can be wrong about a prediction, you can't be wrong about a hope. I'm just sharing what I think would be the most interesting. I hope that this Vault-Tec facility is located underneath Vault 21, the Strip's very own vault-turned-hotel casino. Why? Because based on the lore provided in-game, House filled most of the vault with concrete for basically no reason, and this would give him a reason. Vault 21 was one of the experiment vaults, and appropriate to being in Vegas, the experiment was that they settled all of their disputes via gambling. So when Mr. House approached them and was like, hey, do you want to join my new vision for Vegas? They were like, we gotta gamble on it. So they gambled on it and came to the conclusion, yeah, sure, we're gonna open the doors and be participants in Mr. House's new Vegas. And then House was like, cool story, bro, I'm gonna fill your vault with concrete. Now correct me if I'm wrong here, which I'm sure someone will, but you get this story from talking to Sarah Weintraub and reading the terminals. And they basically explain that he did this, but they don't really explain why he did this. In my fan fiction that you will never read because I will never finish it, I wrote it off as sort of a control thing. Like basically he didn't want stuff going on in the vault that he couldn't see. But I honestly think the real reason is because the developers wanted an explanation for why they only made a fraction of a vault that was more interesting than just putting a bunch of locked doors everywhere. If you have any other insight on the topic, please share. Going back to the pre-war scenes for a minute, not only do we know that Cooper Howard does not kill Mr. House, but we also know that Barbara doesn't successfully sell cold fusion to him. I'm still curious why she would want to do that. Is she rogue from Vault-Tec? Because in the season finale, I think she's the only one that makes eye contact with the mysterious figure in the window. But it obviously doesn't work out, because if it had, Vault-Tec wouldn't have had cold fusion to put into the Gex that we see in Fallout 2 and 3, and Mr. House wouldn't have needed to tussle council with the Legion and the NCR for Hoover Dam. So here's what I'm wondering. Hank was Barb's assistant, right? If Barb was planning on selling cold fusion to Mr. House, what if Hank and Barb haven't been loyal to Vault-Tec this whole time? What if they've been shining Vault-Tec on as undercover agents for Mr. House? From what we've seen from Barb, she just wants to be on the side that wins, and the house always wins, right? I don't really think Barb is a villain. I just think she's willing to take major karma hits to keep her family alive. There's just no way that Vault-Tec was like, hey Barb, can you go on an errand for us and sell cold fusion to Mr. House, please? There's just no way. So if House was like, okay Barb, here's the plan. Vault 21 is on the strip, that's Vegas, that's my turf, tucked away at the bottom of it. Let's put a facility, get to work on Robbie's mind blowers. You get me that cold fusion, the bombs drop, and viva Las Vegas, the reign of House begins, and you and your family are safe. But obviously shit went sideways. I've got to assume the Geks don't have enough cold fusion for House to work with, because everybody's chasing the artifact, the MacGuffin. Somehow over the years it goes from being in Barb's possession to being in the possession of the Enclave, and Hank doesn't end up in the facility working on Robbie's mind blowers, which apparently he really wanted to be doing this whole time because he's pretty stoked. That suggests his whole Vault 33 life was like a sleeper agent ruse. The Robbie's mind blowers facility is empty, but Hank was safely positioned in Vault 33, and the Ghoul clearly believes that Barb was safely housed somewhere too. This suggests that they were fully planning on selling out to House. They came really close to being burned, but didn't get burned. Everybody had to go back undercover and pretend like nothing was going on, including House. So if Vault 21 was suddenly going to be exposed to the outside world, and stragglers from Vault-Tec could wander on by, which as we know they occasionally do, he had to block possible passageways to the Robbie's Mind Blowers labs. Ta-da, concrete. If this is true, I'm curious how much the Ghoul knows about it. He doesn't trust Lucy yet, so it makes sense that he wouldn't tell her all these details, but he clearly knows it's likely that Barbara's in a vault. He clearly knew that Hank was headed for Vegas. When he picks up one of Robbie's mind blowers, based on the way he reacts, he's clearly familiar with what that device is. He might know exactly what he's looking for. The question on his mind is he doesn't know what vault. I bet whatever Cooper Howard does this season is the reason the plan didn't work out and everybody had to go into sleeper agent mode. The only hole in this theory that I can think of is, wouldn't the residents of Vault 21 know what's going on? Are they sworn to secrecy? Do they make some sort of deal? It just seems to me that if they knew what was going on, that House would probably have them removed. And secondly, if the concrete is supposed to block people from getting to the facility, then how the hell did Hank get into the facility? I don't know, we'll see, but if I'm right, I'm gonna feel really cool for putting this on the internet so fast. So that's it from me, fucking finally. I wish I could tell you that I'm gonna do this every week, but there's no way. This has disrupted my week entirely. I'm so behind on all of the things now. Maybe I'll make a short if I have insight on something really specific, but that doesn't mean I'm not doing Fallout stuff. I'm doing all sorts of stuff. Check out my independent Fallout Wiki user page. That's where I'm putting all my Fallout related projects. Something else on my to-do list is updating that page. Of course, I was at Fallout Fan Celebration Vegas this past year, and I will be at Fallout Fan Celebration West Virginia. The plan is to cosplay Trashcan Carla. No clue if I'm gonna be able to pull that off, but if anybody has any ideas to get any of the pieces, please let me know. If you didn't like and subscribe before, here's your second chance. Ladies and gentlemen, and the gender liberated, we just talked about Fallout and a lot of woke shit. So if we shadows have offended, think but this and all is mended. A world where you never encounter somebody that you disagree with is the world that the Master, the Scorched, and Vault-Tec want. Don't be that guy.
If you have to go out, take a gun in the lab, 'cause everybody knows there's a devil in camp.